I'm excited to welcome Kim Fielding to the podcast as part of the 2017 GRL blog tour. Kim is the best-selling author of numerous romance novels, novellas, and short stories. Like Kim herself, her work is eclectic, spanning genres such as contemporary, fantasy, paranormal, and historical. Her stories are set in alternate worlds, in 15th century Bosnia, and in modern-day Oregon. Her heroes are hipster architect werewolves, housekeepers, maimed giants, and conflicted grad students. They're usually flawed. They often encounter terrible obstacles, but they always find love, which is always, of course, awesome. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight.
Yeah, we're excited to kick off the GRL blog tour with you. Or at least our part of it, anyway. So tell us, what have you been up to this summer?
Well, summer's been busy so far. Today, I submitted my 21st novel to the publisher, so that was
congrats.
That was exciting. Yeah, so that's exciting. But the rest of June, I was doing a road trip. My older daughter graduated from high school, and so I thought it would be a good time to kind of drag her on the road. So we drove from California to Nebraska, which she was very excited about. It, 17 years old. Nebraska is where you want to go. So we drove to Nebraska and we saw Carhenge and it was very exciting. And then we went up to the Black Hills in South Dakota and came back across Montana, went to Oregon and came back down to California. So that's a little over almost 4,500 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you going to get a book out of that trip?
I'm sure. I've already got a lot of ideas. Yeah.
Awesome. Because I'm sure, I think you probably went through some very eclectic spaces between all those miles.
We stayed at some really fun little motels in places like Wyoming and South Dakota, and just saw a lot of empty space, a lot of sagebrush, a whole lot of antelope, so it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Now, with your self-published books, you tend to give your royalties to charity. Tell us how that got started and what charity you support.
Well, the charity that I primarily support is Doctors Without Borders, just because they do it's hard to think of a charity that's doing more meaningful, more needed work, and they're not political. Those people they're risking their lives, which I'm not a doctor. I can't do that. So it's kind of my way of trying to do that. And so I started it several years ago when I first self-published before I even had other publishers. And it's just it's a way for me to give back, and it doesn't. Sometimes I can't give as much as I might want out of my paycheck. So this way I can do it. It gives me a little extra incentive sometimes to do some self-publishing. And I'm able to give them a really nice hefty check at the end of the year.
That's awesome. What's kind of your ratio of self-published to publisher these days?
I would say probably about 90% of what I do is publisher rather than self-published. And self-published, I tend to do shorter pieces. I have some older pieces that I've done. I have some things that are available for free as novellas, but I've self-published the audiobooks, and those I also donate those proceeds too. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of audio, you've got about a dozen audiobooks out there. What attracts that to you as a format for your work?
I'm a really big fan of audiobooks. I listen to them a lot. I like to walk. It's my primary exercise. And so the thing that gets me out the door is audiobooks. And, if I'm listening to a really great audiobook, it'll often keep me walking an extra couple of blocks, like if I'm at a really good part or something like that. So that's the big part is I guess it's kind of a vanity. I love listening to them, and there's nothing more fun than listening to my own words being read. And there are some amazingly talented voice actors out there. So I guess the main thing is that I'm a fan, but I think also audiobooks can reach a wider audience, people who don't read in print at all for various reasons, people who like to listen while they're commuting, that kind of thing. And it's a different experience than reading on paper too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would certainly agree with that, because I've gotten more into audio over the last couple of years. What are some of your favorite audios, just to put you on the spot?
I have to say one of my very favorite ones to listen to is Jordan Castillo-Price's Psychop series. I am such a huge fan of those. I can't wait for the next one to come out on audio. And I mean, they're great to read, but the narrator also does Gomez Pierce is the narrator, and he does a really excellent job, and they are just so much fun. And those are ones, I don't know how many extra miles I've walked listening to those. So.
Yeah, usually I get stuck in the car. It's like, I have to get out of the car now, but we're at this best point right now.
You have a driveway moment, yeah.
So you mentioned that you submitted your 21st book today. You want to tell us a little bit about that and like what's coming up down the road from you and what you're working on now?
Sure. I'm at a point, it's almost a little bit frustrating. I have at this moment 4 complete novels that are all in various stages of having things done to them. So that one I just submitted. I've got another one also under submission. The one I just submitted is a contemporary about a guy who builds a library. So that's, I think, close to lots of people's hearts.
Okay, I already like this guy if he's building a
Exactly.
library.
Well, he starts out, he's got too many books. He's got a bit of a problem. And if you could see slightly to my right, you would see that may be something I empathize with a little bit. So he builds like a little free library, one of the little neighborhood lending libraries. So that one I just submitted. I also have a noir private eye story set in a medieval fantasy setting that I have currently under submission. So that one's fun. I have coming out in November. I'll have with Dreamspun. I'll have a mafia vampires in Vegas story coming out that was really, really fun to write. And then next May, I'll have a contemporary coming out with the Dreamspun line, and that one is about a big city lawyer and a small town cook.
And I assume that the Vegas one is for Dreamspun Beyond, that newer
it's for the Beyond
paranormal line. Awesome.
Yeah. So which is, I love writing. Paranormal is one of my favorite genre. So it was a lot of fun, and it has, like I said, mafia vampires in Vegas. How could you not want that?
Absolutely. I mean, you've already got hipster architect werewolves, so
exactly. And I have to kind of give credit because the idea for that one came when Amy Lane and I were driving last year to the RT convention in Vegas, and we stopped for gas in Primm, which is just over the Nevada-California border, and there's like 3 casinos in the middle of the desert, and we were thinking that would be a really great place for lazy mobsters to store bodies, because you don't have to go very far to chuck them into the desert from there. So that's how I got that idea.
Nice. So what are you looking forward to at GRL this year?
This sounds a little bit trite, but the most fun for me is just the people. I mean, seeing my friends who I see maybe once a year, and I missed GRL last year, so some people I haven't seen for a couple of years, getting to meet new people, it is always so much fun. And, as authors, we spend a lot of time kind of closed up in our little spaces and inside our heads, so to be able to interact with actual live human beings is a lot of fun.
That is a good time, and you're right. Always getting to go back and see folks you see once a year is a treat for sure.
And I've met such wonderful friends at the previous GRLs. I mean, people that I keep in touch with now all the time, and that's for me. That's the best part of it.
Mm-hmm. Now I know you've got a giveaway for our listeners to go along with your appearance here. So what have you got for them?
I've got a couple of things. So the winner will get one of my self-published audiobooks, and it's a book called Flux, and Joel Leslie does the narration and does an amazing job of it. So it's a fantasy book. So they'll get a copy of that, and they'll also get a copy of the ebook version in format of their choice of my book Love is Heartless, which is a contemporary with a bit of a suspense backstory.
Very cool. That's going to be exciting for somebody to get for sure. And we'll offer that up the entire week that this podcast is out there.
Wonderful.
Now, what's the best way for people to keep up with you online and all of these books you've got coming out?
Probably the very best way is I've got a webpage. It's K Fielding Writes. And so that one has, I try to keep my blog up to date. One of the fun things I do there is I have a thing going called Interview Roulette, and I have a bunch of authors, usually once a week, come in and I ask them random questions, and they have some really fun answers. So that's fun, but there's also a list of all my books and things I'm going to. But you can also catch me on Facebook, and it's all K Fielding Writes will get you to me at any of these. So Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, if you want to see some of my vacation pictures from my trip. If you want to see the capital of Nebraska, its nickname is the penis of the plains. So if anybody wants to see why, they can see that. So they can see that. They can see Buffalo. We visited Devil's Tower. So that's all up on Tumblr.
Amazing. Well, we'll link up to all that stuff in our show notes for sure. so that people can check all that stuff out. I will certainly be going to the Tumblr to just check out all the pictures.
Wonderful.
From the flat travels that you had across the country. Well, Kim, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. We look forward to seeing you in Denver in a few months.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. It's been a joy.
The Big Gay Fiction Podcast is thrilled to once again partner with Gay Romlit as a featured blogger. You can see all the participating blogs and the full GRL blog tour schedule at gayromlit.com/2017 blog tour. Gay Romlit is an annual retreat that brings together the people who create and celebrate LGBT romance for a one-of-a-kind must-attend gathering of dynamic, informal, and diverse fun. Each year, the retreat travels to a new city and hosts tons of events from raucous parties to mellow tete-a-tetes, while still maintaining a spirit of familiarity. GRL is the place to connect with old friends, find family you didn't know you had, and meet with both newly published and established authors in the gay romance genre. This year's retreat is set for October 19 through 22 in Denver, Colorado at the Denver Marriott Tech Center. For more information or to register, please visit gayromlit.com.